family.
Hello, hello.
I know it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's
It's
been
been a while.
9 months, huh?
Yes, 9 months. Um, I want to say thank you for hearing us out. I
Yeah.
know it's been a while, and I'm just asking that just be patient with us. We've had some issues, I guess you could say.
Technical issues, as in the computer broke.
Yes, real live technical issues, and then we were supposed to have make a major move and different things were supposed to happen and that didn't come to be because
Coronavirus,
coronavirus.
yeah.
And so we had to really lock down, and we have other family members who needed us as well, so it just took us some time to really get some things back
To
in
get
order.
some things in order,
Yeah.
you know,
And so
procure a new device.
right, and so we're here now,
Yeah.
and hopefully, things will be okay from this point on, and we should be, pretty much
Yeah.
smooth sailing after that. Just wanted to give you all a
A quick update on exactly
yeah,
why we've been
why
gone so long.
yeah, go on, right.
And it was because, literally, we knew when we first set up our little thing into that old computer that we were doing this on borrowed time.
Right.
We just didn't think that, you know,
It would
it
come
would it would go
right.
kaput
Yes.
in such a complete
Complete fast,
manner. Like
right,
it just
right.
one day it was working, the next day it was just the
Complete.
screen just wanted like it's I'm done.
Like no,
I'm
yes,
done.
yes.
I gave you as much as I could give.
Right,
It's over.
right. So
And yeah. So while we were getting everything else in order, all of this kind of got put on the back burner.
right.
But now
We're
we're
here,
here.
right.
We're back.
And
And
just to reintroduce ourselves, I'm Renee,
I am Kyrie.
and this is our, I guess you could call it, podcast
Mm-hmm.
of Hear Us Out, and it's our thoughts, our opinions, our philosophies on pretty much anything and everything,
Yeah.
right? And
How we see the world.
yeah,
And stuff like that. And really, it's moreover just trying to create a space where we can have these kind of discussions,
hmm
where you all can have these kind of discussions, where we can all kind of contribute to understanding and enunciating exactly how we feel and what we see,
hmm
you know. And speaking of, trying to understand exactly what's going on, what has happened to the world since our last episode?
yes.
9 months ago we were like, let's read Invisible Man, and
Right.
now it's like, oh my
Oh,
god,
goodness, what has what has
oh
transpired?
my god,
And I will say that because it has been, so long, the conversation that we're going to have today, I can just imagine what the conversation, would have been, I'll say, 9 months ago, meaning probably, we'll be having a different conversation today. However, because of the things that has transpired and, we were, technically knocked out, we're going to talk about some things that, we have talked about personally,
yeah,
on our own, and we're going to, bring some of that, here,
yeah. I mean,
today. So,
what's kind of the point of hear us out if we're not going to be able to talk about the most prevalent issues that are affecting us today?
right.
And we're all kind of caught up in it.
hmm
Um, so let's begin,
Right.
right? Because I remember at the beginning of the year, the whole coronavirus thing came up, and it
hmm
wasn't really until March that it became, okay, stay inside, don't do anything
hmm
because coronavirus. And I remember us talking about then that, oh man, this is going to be a lot longer than they're projecting it to be. It's not going to be a month, not
Right.
just going to all blow over in April.
hmm
This is going to be something that really won't get taken care of until like next year.
Yeah.
Maybe
At the
at
earliest.
the earliest.
Right.
Who knows? Because there's incompetency at every level,
Yes.
and trying to expect some type of efficient, orderly response from serial failures and morons,
Right.
I think is giving these people more credit than they deserve.
Yeah, and the idea that we're actually taking a political approach to this versus a scientific one,
Yeah.
pretty much tells you, the thought process of the leadership,
Hmm.
and what has pretty much, I guess you could say trickled down to the rest of society
Hmm.
because, wearing a mask now is is considered controversial, or that you're a sheep for even wearing one. And it's evolved into this conspiracy.
It's just become another facet of this growing cultural divide.
Mm-hmm.
That has been really growing
Mm-hmm.
since Obama, really.
Right. Right.
Since Barack got in office, just that he was much more adept at covering up these
Mm-hmm.
things and
Yes.
making things seem like, oh, it's okay, it's normal. But we all know that normal here in America is, this. We're both saying the same things but speaking two different
It
languages.
is right.
It's this, like, you're hearing me but not understanding me. You can't really understand exactly what I'm saying because you have too much of a bias of your own. You're trying to prove your own point, at the expense of me, and I'm on this side trying to prove my point at your expense. Everything's trying to happen in spite of each other instead of because of each other,
Mm-hmm.
and it is everything is being exposed. Everything is falling apart. Like, now it's come to a point where we all have to admit that we've all been lying.
Mm-hmm.
That no one is well off. That the system isn't working for anyone. I
Mm-hmm.
remember a while ago I had said, I don't know if it was on one of our shows or not, but I had said, well, if things are so bad for white people in this country, then who has it good?
Mm-hmm.
Who has it good? Because there are a lot of white people who suffer under the illusion that society isn't meant to work for them.
Mm-hmm.
That society is prioritizing us and the black people and the minorities over them, and that PC culture and all this stuff. All this stuff is about hindering them and taking away their power, and that society has been totally geared toward trying to make accommodations for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we as black people, you know, make the contrary argument,
Mm-hmm.
saying that no, society has been bending over backwards to accommodate you, But I think the more prevalent question is this all these things that you're saying that we're supposedly getting out of this, all these things that we're supposed to have, these opportunities, all this money, all this political backing, where is it? Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee you, there isn't a black person in this country that can point and say, well, this is where all that political power is going.
Mm-hmm.
This is where all that money is going.
Mm-hmm.
We don't. There isn't a black person here in America who feels as though that they have some type of power, some type of political backing, something that they can use outside of screaming loud enough.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that. And if you say we do, I would very much like for you to point and show it to us, because
The thing is that with the lie that has been America's persona for so long, is that it has allowed for I it has allowed for white people, you know, to cover themselves in this American exceptionalism. And what has been exposed now is that they aren't the exception. The elite is.
yeah,
The rich is. And so the boot has always pretty much been on our necks. Okay? And what
at least we've always realized.
yes, we've
Always
good point.
known we're
Good
under the
point.
boot.
Right. And so for them, they have, because they are not black, they have been able to, I guess, put
Because the
themselves
system
in that
puts them
space.
above us.
Right.
Mhm.
To put themselves, I guess, in that safe space. But now there isn't a safe space. Coronavirus and this administration in particular has exposed that you all are not safe either.
Mhm.
And so now that things are, the building is falling top down. Okay?
Mhm.
So they are getting the bricks. We already know about the bricks.
Yeah,
They are getting the bricks. And so,
they're falling back on these old tropes. You're seeing
Right.
a lot of these old extremists,
Mm-hmm.
these old ideas, people walking around, better flag,
Right.
Aryan
The
Nation,
whistling, yeah, the
white
whistling about the
supremacy stuff.
about the suburban moms, and
Hmm.
you know we're gonna take care of them, and not not have housing or whatever the case may be in these areas, and everyone,
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
like
no.
we've seen all of this before.
Hmm.
We've seen all of this before, and more prevalent is that we've seen all of this in this form.
Right.
Usually, when these old racist ideas, come back to the forefront, it's in this. They trot it out in some new way,
Right.
in some new, abstracted form that makes people question. Well, it's not racism because they're not saying nigga,
Right.
But now it's 2020, it's
Hmm.
2020, and you're falling on these older racist ideals that that you've been touting since like the 70s and the
Hmm.
80s, and like we know what this is,
Hmm.
and it's like things have gotten more and more extreme. You know,
Hmm.
things have got more and more on on their side,
Right.
on the side of the white supremacists and stuff like that. They're getting more and more desperate, and I can say that. See, that's not the response of a people in power. That's not the response of a people who feel like they're being taken care of, or that and that the system is working for them. If the
Right.
system was working for them, you would see less
Right.
extreme reactions from the right.
Right.
From radical white people. You wouldn't see as much of it
Right.
as you're seeing now, but you're seeing more and more and more because it's not working,
Hmm.
and they're getting more and more desperate, and they're doing more and more radical things, and
Right.
like
And instead of channeling that rage a different way, they're channeling it
they're
in the
doing what they
way.
know.
Yes.
They're doing what they know,
Right.
and it's like the white supremacists marching with the tiki torches. When was
Right.
that?
That's in Charlottesville.
Yeah, Charlottesville, and
Mhm.
it's like that's not the response
Of the
of
people
a people in
in
power.
power. Hmm.
The people in control don't do those type of things.
Hmm.
You know, and it's like you've done everything. You have your Donald Trump, just like we had our Barack Obama.
Hmm.
Like I said, Donald Trump was elected, for the same reason that Barack Obama was elected.
Hmm.
You take a people who feel like they are serially disenfranchised, that the system is ignoring them and that it's set up against them. You have all these people who feel like that the world just isn't on their side. And then here comes a person who says that I can make things right. I can make you feel better. I can put the world back on your side. I can give you a chance, right? Obama came in and was like, oh, black man, he's our chance. We had 8 years of Obama.
Hmm.
8 years of Barack Obama. You couldn't tell us at the beginning of this that we'll be still having this type of conversation. When, like we had a black man in office for 8 years,
Hmm.
for 8 years, and we're still talking about systemic racism. We're
Well,
still talking about these things.
the reason why we're still talking about systemic racism is because now I think it's been crystallized in a way that just having black faces in particular places
Isn't enough.
isn't enough, and that the system is designed to to step on those who are lesser than.
Yeah,
That's by design.
We knew that
So
going in.
I think that we knew it going in. Well, when I say knew, I'm putting it in quotation marks.
Mm.
But the thing is that now it's been so hardened in a way that it wasn't hardened before. So
I don't know.
I don't look the type of reactions that we're having now. I mean, you have folk who were for Obama. I'm
Mhm.
talking about us,
Yeah.
or whatever the case may be, who have now been questioning those 8 years that they didn't question before when they were, I guess, in the midst of it.
Mhm.
But now, now that is over, okay, and looking at what's happening now, they're questioning, well, what is it that really changed? What is it that really improved? And it's not that we weren't questioning it then, because, like I said, being caught up in the midst, now that the storm is over, I guess, now you can sit back and look at the mess, and you can, pinpoint things differently that you couldn't pinpoint before. That's what's.
It's more. Look, I can't say that maybe more and more people are starting to see the forest through the trees just on the
Yeah.
outside. But you can't tell me that, we as a people didn't have an understanding that no, it's going to take more than just a black face to fix this. It's going to take more than just putting black people in places
Mhm.
to fix this. We
Yeah.
knew that before. We knew that ever before.
Mhm.
A black president
Mhm.
before Barack Obama. We knew that it was going to take, unilateral action. It's going to take these sweeping decrees. It's
Mhm.
going to take a shift in the cultural perspective.
Right.
And we thought
Something.
Obama was going to be able to provoke that, because
At
he was
least
a
provoke
black
it.
president.
At least provoke it, right?
and,
But
and
that
there's
didn't
like,
happen.
you know, nothing, like nothing.
Right.
We had a black man in office for 8 years,
Mhm.
for 8 years,
Mhm.
and we're still talking about the prisoner pipeline, the problems in education, and
Mhm.
the growing disillusionment and the black communities and all these things.
Mhm.
A black man wielded the ultimate power in this country
Mhm.
for 8 years, more than enough time to put something in motion,
Mhm.
and there was nothing.
Mhm.
We talk about the environmental crisis, global warming, all this stuff. Oil production actually increased
Mhm.
under Obama's administration.
Mhm.
You know, it increased under his, and yeah, thanks Obama, yeah, thanks for that.
Mhm.
And now you sitting there, meeting with what's her name, Greta Thunberg, whatever her name is.
Right.
You know, you sit there meeting with that girl. But oil production increased under your administration.
Mhm.
Trayvon Martin was killed. While you were president, what did you do? You dropped your
In my,
drones
yeah,
over
in Africa, different countries in Africa.
all that
Same thing,
stuff, like,
same thing with Michael Brown. You didn't
you
you didn't
had
applaud those protests in
multiple,
Ferguson,
you
those
had
type of things,
multiple
right?
opportunities
Mhm.
to do more than applaud,
Mhm.
to enact some type of law,
Mhm.
some type of legislation, to start the conversation. And you did.
Mhm. And so now we have Trump.
So now we have Trump,
Mhm.
right? Because black people, we were like,
Who was
at
incapable
least,
of actually, saying complete sentences of having
yeah,
any type
yeah,
of thought.
and black people, we thought Obama was going to be that change, because we know that we feel like we've been cut out from the deal, that we don't have a seat at the table, and that this is our opportunity to actually start to right these wrongs.
Mhm.
You know, and white people, who on the other side, you know, who are like, well, society, society doesn't do me any favors either. As far as they're feeling, and that, you know, instead of prioritizing my well-being, I'm supposed to be thinking about, oh, we're so evil, we're so bad. I need to prioritize their well-being to make up for, the actions of my ancestors and stuff like that. When I got bills to pay too, right? And you start to feel more and more desperate, and you turn to things like the Klan, because that's the Klan's rallying cry. Is
Right.
that, society is all about helping black people and helping Mexicans and stuff like that. All
Right.
of that is about helping them. That's the entire conversation. Who's going to help the white man? Come to us, right? But we know that that's bait and switch.
Right.
As you just get caught up in that, you get more and more extreme, and you get nothing out of it.
Right.
You know, you get nothing out of it. But you voted for a Trump because you thought you were going to get something. You thought you were going to have someone who was going to voice who was going to fix the problems, your problems, right? And he's done things like, throwing Mexicans into camps and
Right.
all these things, but he hasn't given people jobs. Those coal miners are still losing their jobs.
Mhm.
The people who were in economic distress before are in economic distress now.
Yeah, and it's even worse.
And it's even worse.
It's much more pronounced.
Yeah, especially
And
since
the thing-
coronavirus
right.
has exacerbated everything.
Right.
And it's like, now, see, that's the thing, is that, let's talk about where are these things coming from? Where are these feelings of disenfranchisement, of disillusionment? Where are they coming from, for both white people and black people? What do you think, this, well, I guess for black people, for us, it's kind of self-evident,
Right.
right? History.
Yes.
Just look at the world.
Yes.
But what do you think all of these things, just for all of us, if you had to take a shot in the dark, where do you think all of these things are coming from?
your history, your economics, it's based on a lie. It's based on a crime.
Mm.
Again, it's based on a lie.
Yeah.
And so the lie is being exposed for what it is. For many years you've been able to cover it up. Right? But now that's not the case. And so the thing is that when you are presented with, new information, presented with truth, the first thing that people tend to do is to react negatively towards it. Okay? So they try to rationalize their position. They try to explain it away, blame others, whatever the case may be. And so what I see happening is that the wool has been pulled from in front of your face. The veil is gone. And now you have to confront the thing that has shielded you in a way. And so that's what you have. You have folk who are attempting to confront this, and they want to confront it using old tactics, right? And so those tactics are not working. That's failing too. This is why now when Trump starts, he starts dog whistling, nobody's hearing what the hell he's saying. He's being totally rejected immediately. At one time, you all will placate to him in a certain way. That's not happening now. Everything is being questioned. From how, you started this. How things maybe could have been prevented. But that's not where we are now. And so you have to confront what it is that you're being challenged with. And that's been a difficult job for us.
For people in general.
Yes, that's what I mean. Right.
Yeah,
That's what I was
think,
trying.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah. I think about I remember when we talked before, and I said that because you see a lot of protests, all that's in the news and stuff, over the George Floyd's murder and how the police handled that, to begin with, and how that set off these chain of events. And I remember when we were talking about that, and I said that I don't think a majority of people are on one side or the other of this conversation. I don't think that a lot of white people, feel like everyone knows that there's something wrong, right? Everyone knows that there's something wrong. Whatever that wrongness is, I think it varies from person to person, but we all know that there's something wrong, right?
Fair enough.
And that, but a majority of people are just too busy, or they are too busy, for lack of a better term. Trying to look for a more grandiose word that carries a bit more weight, but I couldn't. No, just too busy, because busy sounds so trivial.
Well, yeah.
But they're just too busy living their lives. As in, they're too busy having to, pay attention to their problems, having to pay their bills, having to do, the things, having to maintain their way of life, that they can't really think about, life in general and what it means for everyone in general, And I say that because, like I said, that everyone is existing in their own bubble. Everyone's existing in their own head, right? And everyone's just trying to do their best to make their way in whatever form or fashion they can, right? And I've often said that, we as black people, we talk about the wealth gap, disparity in wealth between white people and black people. And we know that there is a monstrous gap that grew, under Obama's administration and is growing to this day, And I remember I told you is that if we were to catch up with white people, right? If the racial wealth gap were to be completely eliminated, would that be enough? Well, no, it wouldn't be, because white people are above us. they're above us, in wealth. They have, they are much more well off,
Hmm.
right? But when the problems actually come, when real problems actually come, when things like coronavirus happen,
Hmm.
and all of these things are tested, then that wealth, that yes, you're above us, but that's nowhere near enough to actually deal with the actual problems, right? Because
That's the thing, but that's the thing that it's been, I think, very difficult for them to recognize is that
I think it's been very difficult for either of us to
yes,
recognize,
yes,
you know, that, because like the white people, they're the ones who are making up the majority of these unemployment lines.
hmm
You know,
yeah, because
there ain't
why?
enough of us here,
Right. Well,
to have
and,
those
and that's
type of
simply
numbers.
because we've always see where they are now, and I'm using now with the quotation marks, is that like we've always been there. Like the unemployment has always been high with us. We've always had, you know, these types of issues. These issues are, I'll say, new to
Uh,
new to another
mm,
group. Well, it's new it's new in a way that they haven't had to confront it, you know, daily the way that we have to confront these issues. So,
I can see that.
you know,
That is
so
not as much of a daily problem.
right.
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Well, yeah.
I don't live, the white suburban life. All I know is that for so long, for so long, we've talked about. I'm trying to say what we've talked about, um, the wealth gap,
Mhm.
between white people and black people. But I think that the more prevalent conversation needs to be, the wealth gap between the people for whom the system is working and for the people for whom the system is failing.
Right.
You
Because
know,
the thing is that when you talk about wealth gap, hear me out on this. It's an old conversation, right? An old conversation in the case that, you know, whites have more than blacks, whatever.
Yeah.
That conversation is
Yeah.
old, right? When you attempt to move the conversation differently to get a different result, when you talk about wealth gap, now you're talking rich,
poor.
poor.
Hmm.
And when you do that, that includes a lot of folk who don't look like us,
Hmm.
but have still been able, in a way, at the to
Because they're above us.
right,
They're not as poor
right,
as the majority of the black
hmm
community.
and they don't have to, deal with, certain things because they are technically,
Well,
above. But now, again,
all that white
all of
wealth, all that wealth,
all
evidently, is not as much as you thought.
right,
Because when the actual problems came, when it came time for you to rely on that wealth, come to find out there was nothing there.
right, and you have folk who have, I'm talking white people who have,
Hmm.
they've done all the right things.
Yeah.
They both, played by the rules and saved for 20 years, and the husband, his wife, she gets sick,
Hmm.
cancer, whatever the case may be, and 20 years of the savings is totally wiped out.
Yeah.
You know, now this these are, I played by the rules. I've done X, Y, and Z, and here you are,
Yeah.
still not having your basic needs met. But what you knew is that, you didn't have the problems like old boy on Carondelet and Barone.
Yeah.
You didn't have those problems. You didn't have the Inglewood problems.
Yeah.
So you were able to cover yourself that way. But now all of that's being exposed.
enough.
That's not enough. Mhm.
And that, but I think a lot of us get hung up on, on the, on trying to address that racial disparity,
Mhm.
instead of addressing the disparity in itself. You know,
I agree with that, and I think a reason why, at least for us,
Mm.
is that those who are across from us have created the racial barrier. That's what you all did to us. That's something that was imposed upon us, and so we live in that reality of what was imposed upon us. That's not necessarily a deal. Well, I'm not gonna say that it wasn't imposed upon the group across from us because we know about the categories, whatever the case may be. But the way that it happened and how it was birthed. So we had to deal with it and survive it in our own particular way. And so it's something like you didn't have to survive because of it. You know? And so now that it's exposed, you know, you're not protected to a certain extent because of it.
He's not as protected as he thought you were.
Exactly.
He's not as much sure
Right.
as he thought it was.
Right. And so now, you know, with Trump in particular, like this coronavirus is just
But I
it's just
think
putting
that
everything
we're
on blast.
giving a lot more intent than there actually is. I don't think. Lord,
I know
I
what
don't-
you're trying
yeah,
to say.
I don't think that. I'm just thinking about.
Yes, all the other
all
yes,
of
yes,
it. I'm
right.
like, I don't think that it's fair to say that it's been unilateral on either side. You know.
I try to stay away from that. I know what you're trying to
Yeah,
say. That
it's more over that. Like I said, that, like you said, these things happen from the top down.
right.
You know, these are racially charged, racist ideals. They weren't implicit. You know, in how can I say this?
Yes, I want to hear
How
this.
can I say this?
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go back to the American Revolution. Right, let's go back to the American Revolution.
Okay. Okay. We can go
Right.
back there.
Because I just want to give some context here of
Okay.
what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I'm not saying that white people aren't racist and that there wasn't some racial impetus to begin with. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm
Okay.
saying is that during the American Revolution, at the very beginning, before the American Revolution ever
Mhm.
really started,
Mm-hmm.
right?
You had these 13 colonies. You're talking about that?
Yeah, just
Okay, yeah.
wait, before that. I'm just saying that you had a lot of how can I say riots. You had protests. You had all these things before Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and all before they even stepped into the fray. You had this fervor that the system isn't necessarily working. But for those people, it wasn't the British. It was the rich. You know, for those people, it was
The British and the rich were sort of synonymous.
well, not to them. See,
What
because
you mean? Okay.
this
Keep going. Keep
this
going.
is the historical precedent here. I'm just saying
Okay.
that
What
it
give you? Never mind. Keep going.
because it didn't become the British until George Washington, Benjamin Franklin, those people stepped into the fray. Because it was the rich that they were going after, right? Those are those.
You talking about the king
No,
overseas
no, I'm
taxes?
talking about the people here who were already protesting, who were already feeling like the system wasn't working,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Those people,
Okay.
the regular people, right? Because
yeah.
George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, those people were rich. Those people were, and they're the ones who saw this growing disillusionment. And they knew that this could fall on them as much as it could fall on, the king
Right.
and the queen over in Britain,
Mhm.
right? So they're the ones who kind of push this narrative that, it's the British, and we just need to go after the British. It's them, it's them, it's them,
Okay.
right?
That's fair
Because
enough.
during that time, there was like a lot of people, they weren't very sure about trying to break off with the British. They weren't very sure about, going after the British entirely, right? Because that's when you had the loyalists and the revolutionaries, stuff
Okay.
like that. And it wasn't because some people felt like the crown or people were loyal to the British. It was moreover that wasn't really encapsulating the entirety of the issue. They were just taking all of that disenchantment and kind of galvanizing it and using the British as a scapegoat.
Okay.
Right, but I'm not saying that the British were innocent. That they
Yeah, I
weren't
got you.
doing
I
anything wrong. I'm
understand.
just saying that they took this disillusionment that everyone was feeling with the upper class in general,
Mm-hmm.
and just put that all on the British to allow themselves to maintain some type of status. Right. So, the American Revolution happens.
Mhm.
They win the war. Right.
Like they should have lost.
They won it.
They won.
They won it.
Oh, the British still kicking their own ass,
then they created this system, right?
Mhm.
They created this system, right? And they took those implicitly racial, those the racial divides, right, and codified,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And that
Not that they
so
weren't
now
codified before.
not it wasn't in the Constitution.
Okay, fair enough.
It wasn't the
Because
Constitution
okay,
at the
all
time.
right,
It was
okay.
like it was just
You know,
I'm not
Delaware
like I said,
doing this, Vermont
yeah,
doing that. I
it
got
wasn't
you. Okay.
it
all
wasn't
right.
the country. It
Okay.
wasn't the system.
Okay,
at
gotcha.
that
Fair
point.
enough. I got you.
You
Okay,
know,
okay.
But then the system came into play and turned these the racial ideals into the American norm, right?
Mhm.
And it took those things and like I said, these things, and instead of it being an idea or something that um, that people were doing, it became, I'm trying to find the words here. It became a system that people were born under. It became a system that people were. It became the way to succeed. It became what people did
Mhm.
instead of you know. Not to say that they weren't doing it before.
I understand. I
I'm
got.
just
I got what
saying
you're saying.
that it became the system,
Right.
and that these racially ideas and it's lasted so long.
Mhm.
It's lasted so long because these things happen from the top down, and that you know if if these things weren't codified the way that they were codified,
Mhm.
if these things weren't allowed to fester at the very top of the food chain here,
Mhm.
then I think that a lot of the issues that we're dealing with, we wouldn't be dealing with anymore. You
Mhm.
know,
So the thing today, to fast forward that, is to is to break the top.
because the argument that I make
Mhm.
is that a lot of these racial ideals and a lot of these things happen from the top down. They become law, and then they affect everyone in them. And then the people, you know, who already may have been harboring, these
Tendencies.
racial
Right.
tendencies,
Right.
yeah, that's a good word for it, they glom on to that.
Mhm.
And it just creates a momentum of its own,
Mhm.
right? But like I said, a majority of, oh, my bad, hit the table there. A majority of like the people inside of like the Klan, of the people who turned to these, radical ideals, they aren't racist to begin with. They are desperate. It's like the Nazi movement in Germany, right? Is that you have a people who like they don't have jobs, they aren't able to provide for their families, there's no food, all these things are happening,
Mhm.
and everyone is trying to search for how to make it better. How do we make these things right?
Yeah,
there
and
were a
so
lot
and, and,
of
and
people,
so and so their answer to that was to point at another
no,
group.
that wasn't their answer. There were a lot of answers out there. There were a lot of groups out there,
Fair enough.
but is that the Nazis the Nazis came and they said that they were a socialist party, and if you want to do a little digging into that, you understand that Hitler didn't really mean actual socialism.
Right.
He meant,
Yeah.
he
We know.
took,
We
he
know
took
that. Yes.
socialism
Yes. And
and kind of used his own nationalistic definition
yeah,
for it.
just like Aaron. But that's a whole
Yeah.
other. That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah,
right
so
there.
it wasn't socialist at
Right.
all. We all know this.
Right.
There's just some people like to say, well, Nazis were socialists.
Yeah,
It's not the
no,
right,
right,
but
right.
I'm just saying that there were people who were like, oh, the Nazis are going to be able to provide the jobs.
Mhm.
They're the ones who are going to help me get help me to provide for my family,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So a lot of them, they weren't anti-Semitic. The party was anti-Semitic.
Yes.
But the people who were following them, they were desperate.
Mhm.
They were desperate. And as these things started to grow, 'cause like I said, the Nazis
So
never had.
so the Nazis. I look at it, and maybe I'm wrong, that the Nazis, like the Klan, whatever the case may be, they're able to tap into what's already there. It's not as if.
I don't think. Look, it's not to say that like that white supremacy wasn't there. That I'm not saying that the Klan creates these things.
Okay.
I'm saying that the Klan was created by white supremacists, right? And white supremacy, that kind of
Yeah.
idea already existed.
That's right.
But that wasn't all of the people.
Well, it's but
But I'm saying, I'm talking about in a cultural shift here,
I understand what you're saying.
right? I'm saying because the
You
Nazi
just know how I
Party.
feel about that. Oh,
I'm just saying
it's,
that
it's never old.
Yeah, but I'm saying
Okay, fine.
that when the Nazis came into power, they did not come into power through. They never were the popular party. They never had popular support or the people's support. They were all. I mean, if you look at it, there were people who supported them,
Yeah,
but they
obviously,
never
right.
had the majority of support, right? And they still were able to take over an entire country and stuff and force people into a particular mindset.
Sound
Right.
a lot like this Trump administration.
That's
here.
what I'm saying.
I know that's
Is
what you're
that-
saying.
is that you have people,
You have just enough.
you have people at the very top who create these type of movements,
Hmm.
right? Who galvanize the desperate and say that, and then point them towards some scapegoat,
Right.
Whether it's black people, Mexican people,
Right.
Jewish people,
Whoever,
whatever.
right.
You point them towards something outside of themselves and say, well, that's the boogeyman. They're the ones. They're all the problem, right? And then it creates a type of momentum that can carry someone to political power, right? Then that person goes to the top, and then they're able to shift the system from the top down and create these this systemic problems,
Right.
you know. But what I'm saying is that a majority of the people who turn to these type of extremist ideas, to these extremist parties, aren't extreme to begin with. They're made extreme,
Yes, that's
right?
Yeah.
They're desperate. They're desperate, and that's what I'm.
So
that's the,
so guillotine is that what we get into guillotine?
no, I'm trying to draw the commonality
I know.
between, you know, white people and black people, and saying that desperation that they're feeling, it's akin. I don't want to say it's the same.
Because it's not, but I know what you're saying. It's not.
I'm trying to be nice,
I know you are.
but you're egging me on. All right, fine. It's the same. It's the same desperation that we're feeling. When you're down at the bottom, it doesn't really matter degree.
I agree.
But people like to argue degrees on both sides.
Yeah, because that's a way. I call that that's a way to buffer. See, I'm doing this
Yeah.
for a reason. It's a way to buffer.
And when you're down, right? Like when we talked about this analogy of the boat,
Right.
right?
Right.
I'm saying that white people are up on the upper decks of the boat, and black people are down in the gallows, right? But the boat is sinking. The boat is sinking no matter what,
Right.
and it's going to take us all, right? But us at the bottom are too busy trying to get to the top, and the people at the top are too busy trying to keep the people at the bottom on the bottom, right?
While the entire boat is sinking.
While the entire boat is sinking, and it's going to get us off. What I'm saying is that this desperation, this feeling, this extremism, this isn't the division. It's the commonality. These responses aren't what's dividing us. You know, that's not what's dividing us. It's the people at the very top who are maintaining this system. That's what's dividing us. But the people who have to live in it, those people, like I said, they're desperate. They like I said, white people are better off than us, for sure, but they're not better off. And that's kind of where all of this breaks down, because we say that, you got it better than us, and then white people look at their lives and like, I've had to do hard work as well.
Yeah.
It's not been easy for us, not been easy for me either, and that's where the whole thing kind of falls apart. Because for black people, it doesn't matter if it wasn't easy. It was easier for you than it was for us.
Right. And
Because
so
you were stepping on us,
when we're at the bottom, we're at the
and it's
bottom,
like-
and we look up, we see y'all. We don't see, I'm gonna say, elite, middle, You know, we don't see that
We see white people.
basically.
Yeah.
And so when we are at the, you know, we're looking, we just see, you know, all y'all.
Yeah.
So as far as we're concerned, it's all y'all.
Hmm.
All of you all benefit. This is not something that we created. This is something that you all created, and
And it is
it
factual.
Yeah.
There's the
Yeah.
numbers that show that you do benefit from
Right.
the system.
right. And for us to try to lead the conversation that, you know, well, you're on this boat with us.
Hmm.
You know, that's I think we've tried that a few times. I don't know if we've really hammered it or whatever the case may be. You know, that I think James Baldwin even mentioned how, you know, white people are caught up, they're trapped in the own lie of their history, that they don't even see where they have been played, where they have been lied to, you know, because of where their whiteness is able to protect them in a particular stratosphere that is different
Yeah.
from ours. So to break that, you know, at times, you know, I have my frustration. Well, you know, like I feel at times that yes, you know, we can be the ones to lead that, and then other times I get frustrated and I'm like, why is it that, you know, we constantly have to do this heavy type of lifting?
Well, who is the we you're talking about?
We as in black people. I don't know.
Like I said,
I know that already. I'm just saying.
That's,
I'm just saying.
difference.
That's
the
the
difference between like you. When I say when I'm talking about, you know,
I already know.
I'm talking about those who know,
Right.
those who operate in the understanding that getting out of the gallows, in a
Mhm.
sense,
Mhm.
you know, will not save us from drowning, and that
That's correct,
getting
right.
on top of the boat
It's not going to save us
is
from
not
drowning.
going to save us from drowning.
Mhm.
What's going to take? It's going to take movement. It's going to take a movement from both sides. It's going
So-
to take everyone,
Mhm.
from both sides to understand the real situation here.
Mhm.
That it's more than just black and white. It's more
Mhm.
than just a racial thing. You know, it's the system in itself, and
Mhm.
the system is racist for a reason.
Right.
You know, it's not racist to be racist. You know, it's racist because as long as I'm pointing at you
Mhm.
and you're pointing at me,
Mhm.
we won't be able to point at them.
Correct.
You know, and I think that but you don't really see a lot of that.
Right.
You don't really see a lot of that
Mhm.
because people are, like I said, they're too busy living their own life.
I think I met you one time in one of our previous conversations, whatever the case, I don't,
Mhm.
is that we look at it as we have to solve our problems first. Hear me out, okay? That we have to solve our problems first. And I've come to the realization long ago that solving our problems, you know, it means to solve the world's problems.
The problem.
Right.
Yeah.
The problem. And I know that that might sound frustrating to some, you know, or that it sounds as if,
Because it
you know,
sounds like we
some-
need to put our issues on the back burner
right,
to deal with the world.
right. And the thing is that
we aren't able to get the type of comeuppance
Right.
that we think that we're owed.
but they're synonymous, and I think that's been shown globally. That, you know, if you look at the position of black people globally,
Mhm.
okay, if you look at our position globally, you know, you can't tell me that the other folks' problems are being solved looking at our position globally.
Mhm.
We know this. I mean, maybe you didn't know before, but you know now that's not the case. And so, having the approach of solving the problem, you know, so what are those problems that need to be solved? That's how you solve, like,
That's how you solve
the problem.
the problems. Our problems, their problems, they're all intrinsically connected.
Right.
You know, but we always get so caught up in form over function.
Hmm.
You know, like we've talked about the aesthetic before and how people get so caught up in the aesthetic
Mhm.
and how things look, and that they can't really see how things are,
Mhm.
what they actually mean. You know, and I think, for majority of black people, the only thing that we see is that we're under white people. You know, the only thing that we see is that they are better off than us. Are more well off than us.
Mhm.
And that has been the case ever since we've been here.
Mhm.
And that if we want to fix things, change things, then we are going to have to address that issue.
Yes.
First and foremost,
Foremost.
that is the issue.
Mhm.
That the system is made. The entire reason that the system is here is to keep us down, us as in black people.
Right.
You know, and that if we want to fix the system, then that's what we need to address. You know, and I'm not saying that the system isn't meant to keep us down.
Right.
What I'm saying that is actually a lot worse. than that.
It's more
It's not-
complicated.
It's not. It's,
It's
not,
not
meant
as-
to just keep us down. It's meant to keep us all down.
Mhm. The thing is that
the thing is, we have to realize that white people have been lied to as well.
yes,
When
yes.
they are learning that all the issues got solved in the civil rights movement, and that when black people are saying that
It's not
that no, it's not,
Right.
that they're lying, they're being lazy and all
Mhm.
that stuff. That's the narrative that's being pushed to them for their own edification,
Mhm.
to keep them on the other side of us.
right.
Right? But
Mhm.
when they go home, they still got bills to pay. They still aren't their needs still aren't being met.
Mhm.
Right? And everything in the system is telling them to point at us, point
Right.
at us,
Mhm.
point at us. Because we're the ones constantly complaining and harping on, all these
Whatever, right.
issues of the past that have never been solved.
Mhm.
Right? And it's like, and these people are like, what more do you want us to do? What do you
Mhm.
want white people to do? Like, it's not easy. Blah, 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 blah. And it's like, we need to have the forethought to say it's not you.
Mhm.
To say that it's not white people.
Mhm.
It's those people at the very top, the people who actually get to make the laws.
Mhm.
Because it's not Republican and Democrat. Both parties
Mhm.
have played a pivotal roles in stepping on us
Correct.
and keeping us down.
Mhm.
So no, it's not Republican or Democrat. When I say us, I mean black people.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's,
yes.
So it's not Republican or Democrat, and it's not trying to blame the white supremacists,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Because see, Donald Trump is an idiot
Right.
who pushes racial ideals,
Mhm.
right? But that's different to say, he's racist.
Mhm.
He's not racist. He's power hungry,
Mhm.
and he's doing.
He would
everything-
practically say
he would say
anything.
to maintain
His
his
power,
power. That
right.
those are what people at the top do,
Mhm.
right? He's trying to galvanize enough force to maintain his position,
Mhm.
right? And the people around him are using that to pass laws and legislation to benefit themselves,
Mhm.
to our detriment and to their detriment,
Mhm.
right? To white people's detriment as well.
Mhm.
But we get so caught up in that it's falling on us.
Mhm.
That we don't have the other side of the conversation, or we just don't care to have the other part. It's the way it's falling on them as well.
Right. And so, this is something that I want to highlight to folks. I think it was maybe last year or 2 years ago, we read a mill called Cabral's
Yeah.
Resistance and Decolonization. I think that's the title. And the thing that, I know it blew me away. I don't know for you, but I know for me, when he discussed, his movements in Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde, right? And how it is that he was, fighting against the Portuguese, right?
Yeah.
He made this so clear. I mean, I strive for this kind of thinking, is that he was extremely targeted in his approach,
Mhm.
because it wasn't that he was fighting
The Portuguese.
the Portuguese, the white people. Let's just put it that way,
Yeah.
okay? He was so specific in his target. He was so focused in his target that you had Portuguese, right?
Hmm.
Who
Supported.
who supported him. Like troops on the ground supported him.
Yeah.
Foot soldiers supported him. We're talking white people here. And the thing that he kept focusing on is the same thing that I think that you're focusing on now.
Now,
That you're trying to get to now is that it's not, you know, white people, just white people. And I told you I'm striving, I'm still striving for that.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it's those elites who are actually pulling not just our strings,
Mm-hmm.
but pulling their strings as well. And what they're doing is that they're pulling their strings, robbing them blind in the process,
Yeah.
and having them point to us saying it's your fault because of affirmative
that's
action
why.
or
Yeah.
whatever,
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. You know, befuddling them,
Mm-hmm.
tricking them. They're the ones. Look, they're the ones who are being tricked more so than anyone else, because and I say that relatively,
Yeah.
because we see that it's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay, we see it. We see it. We've experienced it. We know it day one.
Yeah.
And the thing is that for those who are, I'm gonna say, above us, who are not that elite,
Yeah.
right? We feel as if, you all are not doing what you're supposed to be doing
Mm-hmm.
to rattle the feathers at the top.
Yeah.
That's above you. See, we're rattling. Our rattling can only go so far because we are so far below.
We don't have.
We don't have it.
Like, wealth is a white privilege.
Yes,
Representation is a
the
white privilege.
right,
We don't have that.
right,
You all have that representation. You
Right.
all have the wealth.
right,
Much more wealth than what we could ever dream to have.
right. And so,
You are, even like I say, even though we both know it's not enough,
right,
but it'd be more than enough.
Mhm.
More than enough.
Mhm.
And it's not really the wealth that we need. We just need you to understand. Really, we just need you to understand that our movement
Mhm.
is not happening because we want to step on you,
right,
or because we want to have our turn,
right.
or that I can't speak for everybody.
Well,
I'm just saying that
I get the gist of
our
what
success does not have to come at your
expense, right,
and your success does not have to come at our expense.
right. But
That
those,
it is the forces outside
Outside
of
of
us
you,
that are
right.
creating this broken
Mhm.
system, who are profiting from its brokenness.
Mhm.
They're the ones who are setting us at opposite ends.
right,
Right? And if we actually want to create something that works for all of us,
Mhm.
That we need to address that.
Mhm.
That you around here waving Confederate flags and, white nationalist and stuff and all this stuff. You around here doing this stupid stuff, bro.
right,
You around here, you are the one. Like, I think about, like the protests going on now.
Mhm.
Right? The joyful protests and protesting the police and all this stuff.
Yeah,
and
Breonna
trying to
Taylor
defund-
and so
yeah,
many
all this
others,
stuff,
right.
Just
Mhm.
galvanizing all this injustice and trying to, get some justice for that and trying to, defund the police and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Is that it's the police who have put themselves on the other side of the people.
right,
Right? The people will be more than happy to have the police marching with them.
Mhm.
But now y'all the ones on that side holding your shields,
Right.
holding you with your mask and your gas and your tear gas
Right.
and all that stuff. Y'all the one doing that.
Mhm.
Y'all the one with your sticks trying to beat people up, kidnapping people,
right.
just stacking people up off the street.
Right.
Y'all doing that stuff.
Pushing down 80-year-old men and
Yeah.
giving them concussions and head
You know,
injuries and things of
You're
that
the one
nature.
putting yourself on the other side of this argument because
Mm-hmm.
you're prioritizing maintaining what little authority that you have
Mhm.
instead of addressing the system as a whole.
Mhm.
And I've said this before that police, they're victims of the system too.
Mhm.
Because when they go home, they've still got bills to pay.
Mhm.
And that the whole incentive, this whole racial incentive comes from them trying to make their bottom line.
Mhm.
You
But
know?
that's what it's always been about the bottom. And
Yeah.
If you want to think about
Yeah,
it, even so,
yeah.
that's what it's
And
been.
that's what I'm saying. is
And
that-
so,
but they're the
but
ones.
they know. But see, this the thing. This thing. Like we mentioned,
Mhm.
you all know that there's something is wrong.
Mhm.
You may not be able to formulate it, in a particular way, but you know that something is wrong. Like these police officers, who are out here, literally killing with impunity.
Mhm.
Right? they are in a system that protects them, that allows for them to do that. I'm convinced that they know what's wrong. They know what's wrong, but the system will protect them that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so they come up with all of these ideas and rationalizing and, all of this other stuff to protect them.
Mm-hmm.
But they know that something is wrong. What we'll say is that if you know that something is wrong, then you need to do something about it. So yes, you should not be out here, gassing, tear gassing folk, billy clubbing folk, pushing folk down, getting, concussions, shooting people. You should not be because you know that something is wrong.
It is up to you to address
It's
it. Where
up
it
to
is.
you to address it, and that's what we have been asking for. We understand how police came into play. We know the history of the police and the badges back all the way back during slavery.
Mm-hmm.
We know that. But we also know that look, you don't have to do this. So while yes, the system may be protecting you, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do it. And so that's what we're trying to connect with.
Yeah.
That is not what you have to do. Stop.
But I also think that it's a bit unrealistic to expect. It's like I don't want to draw this illusion, this comparison, but it's like when we talk about the game bangers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be out there,
Mm-hmm.
right? We as black people, we understand why they are out there,
Right.
the way that they are out there.
Mm-hmm.
But every gangbanger, every thug out there, every one of them have heard this before.
Mm-hmm.
Have heard people say you don't have to do this. They know they don't have to be out there like that,
Mm-hmm.
but they are.
Yeah, they're rationalizing just like. Yeah, keep going.
But they are. And it's like we know that it's going to take more than just a conversation.
Agree.
We know that
Yes.
it's going to take more
Yes.
than just betting on them coming to their senses.
Yes, I agree. Yes.
To fix this
Right.
issue, and and we know that this issue that we're dealing with, that they're dealing with, is directly connected to the creation of American slavery and all of those things that have been going on in our past and that find a way to constantly crop their heads up again and again throughout American history, and I often say that. Do we think that every white person who owned a slave back in olden times,
Mm-hmm.
do we think that all those people were racist?
Does it matter?
It's more to the idea of approach and how we fix it. And
Mhm.
how was slavery eliminated? That's what I'm saying. But it's like the people who profited from it,
Mm-hmm.
making that face towards them.
I'm just saying because
Because for the argument that I'm trying to make, yes, it does matter.
so it matters whether or not the person was racist who owned the slave versus a person who may not have been racist but owned the slave.
Yeah.
That matters.
Yes.
Okay, keep going.
You just listen to me.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
You already got this dismissiveness going on. It's annoying.
I'm
It
sorry.
says that no, not all slave owners were racist,
Mm-hmm.
but all of them participated and profited from this racist system,
Correct.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it doesn't matter to the slave if the slave owner was racist or not. They still got whipped,
Correct.
right? And they knew it was wrong. They knew it was wrong.
Yes.
And it was like, if you know it was wrong, then act upon that knowledge.
Correct.
You don't have to own people. You don't have to whip people, but that's what you did,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what stopped that wasn't people coming to their senses. It wasn't, this moral justification and stuff like that. It was, they're too ahead of us, the North. was like, they're making too much money from this.
Mhm.
They're galvanizing too much power. We need to stop this.
Yeah.
You know,
That's not
and
the
I'm
only
sure,
thing.
Yeah, it's not the only thing,
Yeah.
but that was the argument.
Mhm.
That was the thing that really, it wasn't. I don't know if Abraham Lincoln really was this kumbaya type person or not.
He wasn't, but we.
But
keep
all
going.
I'm saying is that,
He wasn't.
I'm sure there were people who were like, we need to get rid of this because racism is wrong. But that's not what the justification was.
Fair enough.
The justification was, the South has too much power.
Mhm.
We need to cut that off,
Mhm.
right? And it took a war. It took a war.
Mhm.
It took, Reconstruction. It took, the Civil Rights Movement. It took what it's taking,
Right.
these protests. It's taken all of this,
Mhm.
to try to settle and end this centuries-long conversation. It has taken all of this. We're still having this conversation, still to this day. But like, no, we're not slaves anymore. But we're still dealing
Yes.
with that system, that
Mhm.
mindset. We're still dealing with that.
Mhm.
And we expect, black people, the gangbangers, and for them to just come to their senses. We're expecting, police officers, to just come to their senses, or to just act upon, the right thing, to act upon that knowledge.
Why not?
No.
I know, but I'm just saying, but why
Of
not?
course, obviously, if you know what's right from wrong, you ought to be expected to operate in that knowledge.
Mhm.
But history tells us that no, that's not the case.
That's right. And so for that,
So that's what I'm saying, is that
there are consequences for that.
I'm saying that it took a giant restructuring of the cultural zeitgeist to get to where we are now.
Mhm. Fair enough.
And if we want to stop, white people's gangs, which are police, which is the police,
Right.
and if we want to stop our gang problem,
Mhm.
if we want to stop the gang problem in general,
Right.
then it's going to take that cultural shift. It's going to take an entire restructuring of the system. Like, Martin Luther King.
Definitely agree with that. There's no disagreement
Yeah,
there.
I'm not
We
saying
know
that.
that.
I'm
Right.
just saying that, like, all those people, they understood. And Martin Luther King, they talked about that. Okay, you freed us, but you freed us, to poverty.
Right.
You feed us to no land,
Right.
to nothing to do. You freed us to more struggle, to more suffering.
Mhm.
And we know what we were able to do in spite of that.
Right.
But if we actually are talking about addressing the issues here, that it's going to take money. It's going to take a giant, influx of wealth into these communities, into our communities, away from these police and stuff like that, into these communities. Like, you can't talk about addressing violence
Right.
without addressing poverty. These
Correct.
two things are intrinsically connected.
Right.
But it's just that, there's more people, like, you want to just tackle the violence in our communities without tackling the source. So you get over policing. You get black people being thrown into jail for non-criminal charges and all these things.
Get
You
that
start
crime
doing-
bill by Joe
and then-
Biden?
Yeah, you get more and more disenfranchisement, which means we know that people with records, they don't get the right to vote.
Right.
So now that lessens our ability to
Mhm.
galvanize to the type of representation. We can't gather any type of wealth, which means we can't stop, the factories and all the people from polluting the air, polluting the water, making us more at risk of things like coronavirus and stuff like that. We can't afford the things that we need, to combat this system, and it just keeps getting worse and worse. And people keep doing more and more desperate things, and it lends into that type of mindset. That makes black people, that takes good black people and turns them into criminals. Like we said, this is a criminogenic system.
Correct.
And that
So
same
if it's turning,
type-
so basically, if it's turning us into criminals, right? Then
It's
it's
turning-
obviously
yeah.
turning other folk into criminals as well.
if this
Okay.
system is turning us into gangbangers, then the system is also turning them into police officers. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Is that, and if we want to address this issue as a whole,
Mhm.
then we need to understand that it's going to take an entire restructuring,
Correct.
an entire restructuring of the entire goal and mindset
Mhm.
of the system. That it's going to be top down.
Correct.
You know, it's going to have to be an entire reshifting from the system. You know, and we've argued about how do we prompt that type of movement
Right.
from the system itself. And it's like, and I always talk about, you know, the thing that you said about the Montgomery bus boycott
Mhm.
is that, you know, we weren't allowed to sit on the front of the bus. It was this racist aesthetic stuff, like this unnecessary stuff. Now
Right.
you got to sit at the back,
Right.
just that needling stuff,
Right.
that unnecessary, you know, bullshit that
Right.
you know that y'all get up to,
Right.
you know, water fountain stuff,
Right.
that don't make a difference. And it's like, all right, it's fine. You say we gotta be at the back of your bus. You know what? We're not gonna ride your bus it up.
Right.
We're not gonna ride your bus it up,
Mhm.
right? And you saw people, you saw, like, you know,
All type of
all
businesses.
type of businesses and stuff starting
Right.
to prop up and stuff like that because of the boycott,
Mhm.
right? And it lasted for
Almost over a year. A little bit over a
yeah,
year.
you know, and it's like, and then the bus companies like, all right, fine, you can ride anywhere you want on the bus.
Mhm.
Like you said, the biggest mistake they ever made
Was getting back
on
on
the
that bus. Right.
was abandoning all the infrastructure that they were creating,
Mhm.
you know, to get back on the bus.
Mhm.
You know, and that's the thing, and that's how you solve this issue.
Mhm.
You know, it's not going to take a war.
Right.
It's not going to take.
You
war,
are
it's
going
not
to
gonna
have to
take that.
create something
It's
else.
whoever creates the jobs.
Right.
Whoever creates the jobs
Mhm.
is going to win this conversation, and that's why, you know, the people at the very top have been winning for so long.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter how you feel.
Mhm.
You know, it doesn't matter what you think. We aren't the ones creating the jobs.
Mhm.
We aren't the ones who are able to create a particular way of life.
Right. And I think I mentioned that one time before is that whatever movement,
Mhm.
whatever the movement is, the one that is able to create create
Yeah.
jobs, you know, to create infrastructure, those type of, that is
To
the move.
offer a people
The
an alternative.
alternative.
That's the people
That's-
who's going to win. That's
Right.
what we talk
But
about.
and that's and see, we talked about it before.
Mhm.
That's why you have folk out there protesting, because they're protesting, you know, to get into this
This
arena
already existing structure
Right.
that has shown itself.
that's shown itself to create jobs. Believe it or not, that has shown itself to
that has shown itself to be broken and racist.
Right.
And all these other things.
right, but it
You
still
know,
provides
But that's where the jobs come from.
right. So now,
So you're trying to prompt the movement from them, and we know that they're going to move just enough.
just
They're
enough.
going to do just enough. They're going
Mhm.
to change the conversation just
Just enough.
enough. You know, like
Painting
I
up
said,
streets, take down
you
enough.
pay doesn't pay down no statues.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
defund the police a little bit from here to there and stuff like that. You know, but we know that that's
Not
not
enough.
enough.
Mhm.
It's not enough.
Mhm.
And we know that the system itself is going to do just enough to maintain the power that's already there.
Right.
So if you actually want those unilateral sweeping changes that you're looking for, like you said, if you want schools to change, take your kids out of it.
I've been saying that for 20,
Yeah.
over 20 years.
And
right?
if we want,
yes, remove
things to
yourself,
change,
remove
then we
yourself
are
from
going-
it.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's like, remove ourselves to what?
Right. That's
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the real issue. It's like-
That's been our issue, is that we say to take our children, you know, out of the schools. You know, I've been saying this for
Yeah.
decades, and take, like I said, take them out to what? So where are our schools? What is it that we have? And you do have, you know, we do have schools out here, but we know
But that's
that's
the
not
thing.
enough. Right? It's not
you
enough.
shouldn't have to find them. There needs to be something that you shouldn't
You
have to go
should-
searching for 'em.
Right.
That alternative needs to be right there. You
Right
can point
there
at it,
in
it's right
plain
there.
sight. I
That's
tell you
the
that-
building,
that's the build-
place,
that's the
the
place.
thing,
Right.
right there.
Right.
You know, and it's like,
And that's with everything. You with communities and everything.
you know, with schools,
Schools,
with buildings,
hospitals,
with
you name it,
anything.
everything.
That's what it needs to
Right.
be. And it's like, that's why I feel like these protests are kind of bittersweet.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, it's really good that, you know, people are reacting.
Right.
And that you're seeing this conversation being had, and people are out there, and
Mhm.
they're showing that outrage, they're doing all these things, but we've seen that before, and we know
Mhm.
where it leads to.
Mhm.
It needs to be more than a protest. It needs
Correct.
to be some
And so,
infrastructure being
and I
built.
always say for those, okay,
And the people
you're
are
gonna
out
have
there to
folk
network,
out there,
to create.
right? You have folk out there who are protesting. You know what I mean? I am for all of that,
Mm-hmm.
and I am also for that next step as well. See, I understand that we have folk who can
But
only,
that's the thing.
but it's not. It's, I'm gonna say this, y'all, is that it's not incumbent upon them who are protesting, right? Because they are doing what they know, right? They're doing what they know. But those who know something else, right? So while they're out there protesting, okay, you know, we need to get to school out here.
But it's not like
You
those who know something else are any more well off than those out there protesting.
Well, that's on. Well, see, you're not acting on what you know.
But no, I'm saying that it's impossible for us to act on what we know if we don't have the people there. If the people are out there doing that
But-
and not building the infrastructure,
But see, that's the thing though. That's not. I don't think that's most of us out there. Yes, there's plenty of us. Yes, obviously, go out there, you see that.
Mhm.
But there are also folk out there, you know, who are not protesting, right? Who are not, you know, on the streets, right? You know, what are they supposed to be doing? You are supposed to be building, creating that infrastructure to turn the protesters, I say, to turn them away from going into a system that we know is
we'll
not
not be able to provide for
for-
them or give
right.
them what they're
the,
looking for.
but the only reason, but I'm gonna say only, the only reason why they're going that way is because that is the only thing
That's
that
the
is
only
provided.
option, yeah.
So the thing is that for those, we need to be out here building. We need to be out here creating.
This is where the soldiers fall, because it's like,
Look, I agree. I would like for us who are on those streets out there protesting, you know, turn away, walk away, right now, boom, do, you know, whatever. Yes, but I know that's not.
but that's what it needs to be.
I'm not saying that's not what it needs to be. I'm just saying that's.
But I'm saying that you're thinking that we can have both.
Well, the thing is that it's not that I think that we can have both. I'm just saying that's what's happening, right? I'm just.
That's not what's happening.
They aren't protesting out there in the street.
What
Yes.
I'm saying is that there is no infrastructure being built. That's
Right,
what I'm saying.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like they are protesting, right? Yeah, folk who are protesting, but the infrastructure ain't being built,
Yeah.
right? So if they are out there protesting,
But like I said, you thinking that we can do both. That both.
no,
that both
I'm
can happen.
saying that's what. If they're already doing that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Like I'm not out, you know, they're already doing that.
Yeah.
I would love for them to turn away, you know, into stuff. But the thing is that that's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I have to operate in the knowledge knowing that's not what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? So I need and others need to be doing something else. You know, that's just what it is. Like we need to be doing something else. For those who aren't out there. If you want folk to turn, if you want folk to turn away, then you need to be, you know, building, doing those type of things. Right? How am I going to get them to turn away? If that's not what we're doing on our end. Because they're already out there. Listen, they're already out there. They're already out there. So how do I get them to turn away if they're already out there? Gotta start building. Gotta start doing. Gotta start creating.
Look, I'm not saying that you're wrong.
You're
I'm
just
saying-
thinking that my process is longer?
No,
Okay.
I'm
like,
saying that it's like when we talked about what was it? Tyler Perry's studio,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and it's like that a lot of black artists and black creators they complain about how they aren't able to get as many opportunities as their white counterparts in like Hollywood and stuff like that.
Right.
And Tyler Perry was like, "Well, I have my studio right here.
Right.
You don't even have to go there,
Mm-hmm.
right?"
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what's happening on the full sale.
But this is what Tyler Perry did. Listen.
Mhm.
While y'all were complaining about, you know, Hollywood and studios, whatever the case may be, Tyler Perry.
Yeah, he went
While
off
you
and
was
created
playing,
this thing,
he
yeah.
went off created this thing, right? So now, okay, if you're still complaining, okay, you're still trying to crack through Hollywood when you should be going through Atlanta,
But
Georgia.
that's the thing is that yeah, you created it. It's right there. People know it's there, but they're still going to Hollywood.
So now, what? So now, what needs to happen is, like you said, that shift in thing because you have the place, but the thinking hasn't changed.
That's what I'm saying.
I know.
So
but what
you can go off and build all the infrastructure you want.
No, but you
If
still.
the thinking
But you.
doesn't shift.
I agree.
I'm not saying not to build it. I'm saying that just
Yes.
know that if the thinking is not there, you're building a problem, and it's not going to be used.
But listen to me.
Not the way that it's
Right,
supposed to be.
right. So
It is
Yes,
not going
we
to
have to-
represent what it's supposed to represent.
we have to do all of those things. What
Yeah.
I'm saying is that you have to do your work, you know, regardless of what's going
I'm
on.
not saying.
I know
that.
you're
I'm
not
just
saying.
saying that. I'm saying that you're thinking that if that both can happen, right? That you can create.
Not that both can happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that is happening. That is
That
happening.
isn't what's happening though.
The protesting?
The infrastructure.
Yes, yes. I want them to happen.
But that's what I'm saying is that they can't happen together because people are going because the thinking hasn't shifted. People aren't looking to create their own infrastructure. They're looking, to find it in a Hollywood. They're looking to find it there, and we know it's not there.
I'm not thinking that it's a first or second thing.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying that infrastructure won't wholesale be built until the thinking shifts.
Okay,
And
I
won't-
agree with that.
And it won't.
But what I'm saying
it
is that,
won't do the job it's supposed to do
but it's,
until that thinking.
but you have to
shifts.
start. But you have to start, right? You have to
Mhm.
start.
You have
So
to start
that's the-
somewhere. So
right.
start with trying to address what people are thinking. Start with trying to address, where people think the answers are.
Right. So if they are thinking, if they are thinking that I have to go this way, protest whatever, my thinking is that no, I need to do X, the building and thing. Then that's what we need. Then that's what we
It's
need
not
to do.
it's we.
That's what I'm saying.
And you can't get the we if everybody's out there protesting.
But I don't know. I think we're saying to say that I'm not saying that everyone is out there protesting.
I'm not saying that everyone is out there protesting.
All right, so
I'm saying that when people are thinking about how to address the situation,
Mhm.
they're thinking either I'm going to have to keep doing what I'm going to do,
Mhm.
right? I need to keep, steady,
Mhm.
or it's the protest.
So you're okay. All right, I understand because
The
you're
protest is already taking up, the infrastructure,
okay.
right? It's taking the place of the infrastructure.
okay.
People think that that's the answer,
Mhm.
but we know that that's not going to be enough.
Right.
That racism, white supremacy, even if the protest gets everything that it wants, that white supremacy is going to find a way to abstract itself again, change form again, and trot out a new form. That's what Malcolm X said.
Yeah, like a Cadillac roll out every
new
year.
one is
Right.
going to be something else
Mhm.
because the system itself is broken,
Mhm.
and you went to the system to get your job,
Right.
and you tried to promote some type of change from a system that shows that it only changes to maintain the homeostasis, to maintain the status quo.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
But people are thinking that that's the answer.
Mhm.
That's the answer. That we can get them to move the way we want to move through the protests. We know that that's not the case. That if you want them to really start to acquiesce, to move the way you want them to move, you need to create your infrastructure. But at that point, you're not going to need them anymore. You're not going to need them because you already have what you're looking for and you have it on your own. But that's not the thinking. The thinking is we can get them to move through the protests.
Mhm.
I'm saying that you could go off and build all the infrastructure that you want, but it's going to sit there empty or not playing the role that it's supposed to play if the thinking doesn't shift. And that thinking won't shift if everyone thinks that the alternative is the protest.
I'm not disagreeing. I have never disagreed with that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that if they are thinking, you have this group who are thinking that this is the protesting is the way to go. Yes, I have to shift their thinking. Yes, I have to shift their thinking. But I also have to, you know, create and build, to go along with that. That's the thing that I've talked about even with us, even with the homeschooling, right? Is that the thinking part, I can get that. The that type of work, I can get that. Now, boom, I got to put it out in the open. That's been my only, I'll say, issue. The thinking has changed.
Yeah.
Now that the thinking has changed, it has to be
Our thinking.
That's what I'm
has
sorry.
changed,
Right.
and not the thinking of the people as a whole.
Right.
If people are turning to the protest as the alternative, as the way out, if people think that that's the way out, then that's where all their energy is going to be spent.
Fair enough.
what
Because
I'm saying.
okay. That's okay.
You can't get both options. You can't get the protest and the infrastructure.
Okay.
The infrastructure has to be the protest. That's how the boycott worked.
Okay.
Right? You can't go out to be protesting in the street, right, and think that you're going to get all the other stuff as well. History has shown to us that that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying, is that, it's not about, the reparations isn't about just giving a bunch of black people a lump sum. It's about
I want to
shifting the
have
system
a
in itself.
different. I
Well,
want to do.
it's
No,
all
just,
the same thing. I'm
yeah,
just saying.
no. But I want to hold.
Yeah,
I want to have
no,
reparations for
I
a
know,
different topic.
Like I said, it's all the same thing.
Okay.
It's all the same thing. Is that it's about more than just giving black people a bunch of money. It's about fixing the system in itself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reparation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the protest. The infrastructure is the protest. But you won't get to that if your protest is relying on their infrastructure. And the thinking hasn't shifted to where we need to create our own infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go off and create all you want. It won't serve. It's not going to shift the conversation.
Okay.
What?
No, because I think all of that works together. I don't. Yes, we need to change the way that we think. Because if we change the way that we think, then we would change the way that we behave. Knowledge is supposed to change behavior, right? It's supposed to, right? So if we change our thinking, change our behavior, that in itself will lend itself to building the infrastructure.
And then the infrastructure is going to actually be able to serve the role it's supposed to serve.
Right. That's fair.
Instead of just being there.
That's fair. And so the thing with the reason why I would say like a Tyler Perry studio
Like
is not the go-to target. Let's put it that way. It's because the thinking of the
Hasn't
folk,
shifted. They're
the
still
thinking
going to
hasn't
Hollywood.
shifted. Yeah.
Like we said, the school's out there.
Mm-hmm.
The school's out there, but they aren't able to get as much exposure as they have because the thinking hasn't shifted. People aren't really looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to get this African-centered black education from is a broken Eurocentric school that has shown that it will not provide that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Tyler Perry Studio is there,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still going to Hollywood. You want Hollywood,
Mm-hmm.
to prop you up.
Mm-hmm.
Hollywood has shown that no, it's not going to do that, or it's just going to shift enough to maintain what it is.
Right. They'll offer just enough.
Just enough.
That dangling carrot that I always
Yeah.
talk about. They'll offer just enough to get you back into the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though you have the alternatives are there,
Right.
they won't serve the role they're meant to play until the thinking is shifted.
Right.
And the thinking won't shift until we understand that it's more than a racial issue. That it's more that the issue itself is that
I think that we know that it's more than a racial issue, but so much of the issue is based on racism.
Racism, yeah.
I think
I don't think that's the majority.
I think it's enough of us.
it needs to be a majority.
Okay. So we still have work to do.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's going to
Yeah.
going to be ongoing.
So yeah. So in conclusion, very end of this episode, a lot has changed.
And a lot has been exposed.
And a lot has been exposed. The lie won't be able to maintain this form anymore. We don't know what it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
that comes after this. We don't know, whether Trump wins or if Biden wins.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what's going to come after.
Right.
All we know is that the system cannot maintain as it has,
Right. That's correct.
and
Mhm.
that something's going to have to give.
Right. And,
And we also know that in whatever way
Mhm.
that it shifts, and however it gives, it won't be enough. So we, as a people, need to be prepared for us
Mhm.
to stop being too busy and make our daily lives about shifting the cultural perspective.
Mhm.
That's what this needs to be about.
Mhm.
That's what all of this needs to boil down to.
Right.
Because as long as it's not, as long as we keep having this conversation, or we keep pointing at each other and all this other frivolous stuff, as long as it's this, it'll never be what it needs to be.
Right.
We'll never get to actually build it.
Right.
Or you want to skip this step
Right.
and go right to building.
Right.
But that has shown that it won't be enough.
Right. And so what happens is that it's going to take away from the work that you should be doing. And I think Toni Morrison
Mhm.
mentioned that, particularly about racism, that it's constantly taking you away from your work.
Mhm.
Because every time they say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, and we're like, oh yes, we can. And so we devote so much energy and thought and time and process to proving that. Then it's always something else. Then it's always something else. So now is the time to really shift our thinking and to really make it something else.
To really make it
To
something.
really make it something.
Right now, we all need to have that coming to Jesus moment.
Or whoever.
Whoever you believe.
Yes, whoever you believe. That's right.
We all need to have a little bit of perspective.
Hmm.
To take the time to really see what is happening here.
Yes.
And the potential that is there to actually create something that can work for all of us.
And try to understand versus listening to simply just reply or just to have something there. Understand what people are trying to say. Listen.
And stop scapegoating. Stop looking
Yeah.
for easy answers.
Yes. Because I'm going to tell you, okay.
Yeah. That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole other
You
conversation.
can have that later.
Yes.
But yeah.
Thank you for listening and thank you for hearing us out.
And we would like to hear you out. If there's anyone out there, leave a comment. If you agree or disagree, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever questions, concerns,
Yeah.
put them in the comments.
Yeah. And we're very, very happy to be back. We've been
Yes.
bouncing off the walls
Yes.
ever since we've got the new setup here.
Right.
And we're more than happy to be able to continue this
Yes,
conversation.
finally, yes.
So thank you for listening.
Thank you.